Hi, I'm Dr. Teena Cahill, and welcome to Wisdom and Beyond. We have a great guest today. Hello there, Dr. Gloria Frederick. How are you?
Hello, I'm fine, and I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Now, you're the director of the Institute of Wonderful Women Working for Empowerment.
Yes, I
love
know
that
it's a
title.
long name.
I'm a wonderful woman working for empowerment.
Indeed you
I'm
are.
sure you are too. Tell me about how did you come up with that name and what is it that you do?
Our organization came up with that name after a lot of just women meeting and just trying to figure out how we could support other women. That's really
great.
how we got started.
That's wonderful.
And
that's wonderful.
It was. But what we were concerned about was a lot of women talk about other women and say things that are really not very pleasant or kind. And so what we wanted to do was to get away from that. We wanted an organization that not only supported women, but would then do something about what women needed to have done.
Great, I love it.
So that's how we got started, and we actually met for a couple of years before we were incorporated. So that's how we got started.
So you
how we got our name is another matter.
Tell me about that. How'd you get your name?
Well,
I laugh every time I see it because I love it. I mean, it's a great empowered title.
And we're pleased about that.
Yeah.
We were talking amongst ourselves for, I don't know, 3 or 4 meetings about we probably need a name because we've been meeting for almost 2 years. We probably need a name. So we came up with lots of them. And finally, one of our members said, "We're wonderful women.
I love
How
it.
about?" And we're working for empowerment because by that time we had decided that our goal was the empowerment of women, and we focused on African American women. Because that's who we are, and so we came up with that. And then the question was, "Are we an institute?" And we said, "Yeah, we don't exactly know what an institute, but we are."
Whatever that is, we are. I understand that.
But part of it was because not only did we want to support women, we wanted to do research at some point about what we do, and we wanted to support the, as we call it, the teachings of our ancestors. So that was how we both got started and gave ourselves our name.
Well, I think if you're going to work for empowerment, you should call yourself Wonderful Women, because if you decide we're like okay so women working for empowerment, I don't think anybody's going to join.
Well, we thought about women working for women, but that didn't quite.
I think it's great. I
think
it's a powerful title. It's a powerful name.
Well, thank you.
So now you've reached out basically to the African American community in the Trenton area, right?
Yes.
To empower who? Other wonderful women, but who are these wonderful women?
What we ended up doing was we were getting information about cases where women, just really needed help.
What kind of help? Or all kinds of help?
You name it. And,
well, I mean,
but at that point, we didn't have money, so we decided we'd do a fundraiser.
And economic empowerment is maybe not always the first step, but if you want to change the life of a woman and her family, economic empowerment is the way. And the reality is, the research tells us, that when you economically empower women, their families benefit.
Absolutely. And that is so true. And that's one of the things that we talk about often.
Yes.
Because a lot of the programs that are out there empower children and youth. And we said, well, what about their moms and their parents? They have to provide the economic support for their families.
Right.
So that's probably another day's worth of discussion all by itself. But what we wanted to do was to figure out what women needed. So we did our own little research. We developed a questionnaire that had about 12 questions, and we went to the shopping centers in and around Trenton.
That's great.
And we had some information downtown, so we went downtown and we just talked to women and did our little survey. Went to Boys and Girls Club, organizations like that. We also then had a series of discussion groups. Once we had sifted through the data from the surveys, we then talked to women about what we were finding, and it was fascinating because the women that we talked to wanted the same thing as everybody else. They wanted to have stable situations.
Absolutely.
Many of them either were unemployed or underemployed, Many of them wanted to go into training, but they couldn't. But
didn't
they
have the
wanted.
money.
That's right. They wanted a job with a future, and they said we wanted to own something. That was the thing that we really found the most interesting. And we said, well, what do you mean by that? And this was about 3 years ago, so the economic situation is a little bit different than it is now. And they said, well, it would be nice to own a car so we could get to work and that sort of thing. But it would be nice to own a home so that they didn't have to deal with the vagaries of rent and that sort of thing. So that's pretty much how we got started.
And so how do you take the first step toward owning something is how
That's
you
right.
got started.
That's right.
I just wrote an article last night, actually, called Feminism is About Family Values. And this is the embodiment of it.
I think
You're
so.
the embodiment of that language, that feminism, wanting to make sure that you sort of level the playing field and make opportunity for all women, men too, but opportunity for all women, is really about not only supporting them, but changing the reality for their kids.
It is. It really
Absolutely
is. We actually decided that we had a board member who was working at one of the local schools, and we had already figured out the healthcare was where we needed to
Absolutely.
focus.
I mean, because
We
those are
did
the
the
jobs,
research.
the
That's
most
right.
stable job sector.
That's right. And there was such a variety in the healthcare field, from the very lowest to the very highest.
That's
so
right.
there are all kinds of places to go once you're in the field and have gotten a little bit of training. You can go and get a lot more training. So we had figured that out from the surveys and from the research. So we were talking with one of our board members who just kind of casually, she was working at a local school, and she just kind of casually said, there's so many women who are struggling in the school. She said sometimes they don't have a meal to eat all day. We said, well, we can work with that, and that's really how we got started.
And
working with
so
the
you
local
started
school.
by supplying these women with basically lunch money.
Well, we actually, it was more simple than that. Our board members said, a lot of them need scrubs.
Okay.
And they need transportation.
Sure.
So that's really how we got started.
And
so
how
we
did you
said,
get the money to fund that?
We did fundraisers. We did our own, going out and talking to our friends and saying, would you support us? So the first fundraiser we had was a stay-at-home tea, and we raised $2,000.
So everybody stays at home and has a cup of tea?
That's right.
I love it.
And
My favorite kind of fundraiser.
We sent out tea bags,
That's great.
and they sent us back a donation.
Isn't that great?
It is.
How'd you get your mailing list?
Our friends.
Isn't that great? I love
That's
it.
basically what it was,
I
our
love it. This
friends.
is what women do, you know? This is what we do. We're doing a caregiver conference that will have happened by the time this show is seen. But I have all these professionals donating their time, and everybody said to me, well, where'd you get these people? And I said, oh, they're my friends.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where you start.
That's right.
We had also done a what we call a least of these luncheons earlier in the year. And the least of these were women that did work in community organizations, but they were like the backbone of the organization, but nobody paid any attention to them because they were always looking at the executive director or the person in charge. So we did a luncheon to recognize people
Nobody ever recognized.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun.
I love it.
We also recognized 3 young men who were in some of the special ed programs, but they were so much improved from when they started.
Isn't that great?
And their families were just beaming. We have those pictures now.
Isn't that great?
It really is.
Now, who are these other women you were with? This is a dynamic group of women.
It is, and believe it or not, there are 5 of us.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. We have Darlene McKnight, who is our board chair, and well known in the Trenton community. And it's like we are best friends. It's been amazing. Recently, we talked to a prospective new board member, and she and I interviewed the person. And about halfway through was a lunch. She said, "How long have you been knowing each other? You've probably been knowing each other all your lives." We said, "No, about 3 years."
Isn't that great?
Yeah. So she's just amazing and dynamic. So she helps us think through some of the things that we want to do with and to assist the women with. And then Samut Angela Scott is a businesswoman. She had owned her own healthcare business.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and so she was able to
That's a
help
great
us
asset.
through. Yeah, absolutely. And Gail Dixon is our newest board member, and she is she's a she's been an entertainer, a community activist, and she's a caregiver too.
Isn't that great?
So she's just been amazing. And then we have my husband.
Good.
who was not a member of the board originally, but the board members pointed out that he was doing everything. You know, he's our website person, and when we design the training, he puts it online for us.
That's great.
So now we're wonderful working women and one man. I'd say.
And one wonderful man, right?
There you go.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What's on, now your website is, tell me your
It's
website.
www.wonderfulworkingwomen.org.
Okay, www.wonderfulworking,
Wonderfulworkingwomen.org.
www.wonderfulworkingwomen.org.
Yeah.
So what kind of training is up there?
What we're doing now is developing our online mentoring program. And it's a two-part program where, let me back up a minute
Okay.
and tell you how we got into the online
Okay.
mentoring. Once we gave what we call just-in-time grants, those were the scrubs and the transportation that
And
was
now,
done
somewhere along the
originally.
line here, you formed a relationship, though, right, with
Yeah.
somebody offering certification as a home health care aide?
All of our work is done with local schools, and
Okay.
they provide the
Now, would that
certification
be,
and the training.
is that basically the county college or the vocational school?
It's the Healthcare Career Center. The first school was Harris,
Okay,
and now we're working with the Mercer County Healthcare Career Vocational Technical School.
okay,
And I think I got that name wrong too, Sharon. But anyway, we work with their principal, Sharon Nemeth, extensively.
okay.
Sharon,
So this is a
Sharon
public,
is amazing.
a
Yeah.
public school. Great.
It is. At that school, most of the participants that we provide assistance to are in LPN training or
Okay.
medical assistant or
That's great.
home health care. So,
That's great. And they can do that in the Mercer County area.
yes.
And how long does it take for certification?
Well, it depends on what they're
Doing?
doing.
LPN, that must take what?
It's about a year.
I would think so.
Yeah, it's about a year.
Because the RN at Mercer County College
It's 2 years.
is a couple years, plus
Yeah.
then if you want to get a bachelor's degree, you go on from there.
That's right.
All right, and so how about medical assistant?
I think that's 6 months, something like
Okay,
that.
and how about home health care aide?
That's about 8 weeks.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so in 8 weeks, somebody can walk out with some credentials.
Yeah.
But first of all, they need these just-in-time grants to be able to have the gas money to get there, the scrubs to wear, and maybe some money for lunch, too.
Once we gave the first group of just-in-time grants, which was $200 to help buy scrubs, and some people needed transportation, some people just needed the scrubs, and some people needed, like babies' clothing and
Sure.
things like that.
Sure.
So that's what we used the money for. And what was really interesting about that was it was not nearly enough, but it was a help. And that was the first group that we did. And in one of those instances, our recipient had a car. Her mechanic had told her it was not roadworthy. It was just unsafe. So we gave her money to at least make the car safe so she could get back and forth.
That's great.
From
So
home
basically,
to
you
training
do what
with her kids.
you do what it takes.
We do what it takes.
That's right.
We do what it takes within the limits that we have.
That's great.
We've since actually expanded, and so now we help with tuition and books. We're still with our core of helping with scrubs and transportation.
Okay. And how else are you getting your money now? You have an office now at what, 120 John Street here in
right,
Princeton.
which is
in
part-time. We're not there all the
part-time
time.
office,
Yeah.
right? But you do have a location to go
Yeah,
to.
right.
And so how have you expanded your fundraising?
We have had 2 fundraisers a year for the last 2 years, and we're rethinking that because it stresses us out because, because there are just so few of us, and the demand is really great.
And it costs money to
And
do
it
that.
costs money.
And so what are some other ideas that you have about fundraising?
Well, one of the things we talked about last year, we had a caregivers conference, which was not a fundraiser, but it needed, there was just so much need there, but it went well. We also do a healthcare career fair in the fall.
Okay, and where do you do that?
We do that at Beloved Community, which is Covenant Presbyterian in Trenton. Well, all of the work that we do, all of the training that we do, all of the fundraising that we do has one purpose, and that is to support the women that we provide assistance to. And we're not just talking about support with tuition. We're also talking about exposure. So that, for example, with the Caregivers Conference, the students came, there was a whole class of them actually, and it was an opportunity to meet the caregivers.
That's great.
That they will be working with.
Yes.
At the healthcare career fair, they're able to give blood pressure, so they get practice.
Good.
But they also meet employers.
Networking.
That's right.
I just did the keynote address, I think I told you that, in November for the New Jersey Association of Home Health Care Agencies. And they honored these wonderful men and women who really make a difference in the lives of families like mine and other families all over the state. And I think it's hooking these people up with those agencies is really smart.
Last June we did Laughter is the Best Gala, and we gave out our spring group of Just-in-Time Awards. But we also had people from the healthcare field, and the students were there. They helped us set up and things like that. And they were there, and they were able to meet, other people who were in the healthcare field.
That's great.
So all of our fundraising activity helps us to get a little bit of money, but it also helps the students.
That's right.
To network, and that's important because when they finish being students, they're going to be out in the real world.
Well, there's no question that I think that's one of the issues that goes on for women and pretty much minorities, people that haven't had the opportunity that you're trying to create for these women is you don't know the people that can help you get the job.
That's right.
That's right.
And because of that, there are two other aspects of our support. I started talking about the e-mentoring program.
Yes.
But I'm going to switch gears and I'll go back to that. Once we provide the just-in-time grants, those women become part of what we call our protege network. And that network is designed to meet monthly, to talk about issues that affect them, to help them think about how they move, how they transition from being students to being in the world of work.
Do you ever think of those meetings as sort of, to some extent, like some of the empowerment meetings that took place in the 70s, when those, in my age group anyway, we were trying to knock down some of those doors and grab our kids and see if we could get through a crack or something, And I think a lot of women met to try to figure out, if you're not within the power structure, how is it that you can go forward and find some opportunity?
That's exactly right. And we also, we're just developing this part of it, but one of the things we want to do is bring in speakers like you who can be inspirational. We'll be bringing in a representative from the bank who can talk about financial issues, health issues, nutrition issues. So that's part of the support as well. And then we have an online mentoring program, and that program only has people who are in the healthcare field. And the goal is to help them to be able to ask questions about what's going on in the healthcare field.
What's it like in your job?
That's right.
How does it work?
That's right. That's right.
Oh, that's great.
So we have people who are in the healthcare field who are like in HR, who are nurses themselves, who are administrators.
That's great.
And the idea, so that is to be able to say, this is what you might be able to expect. One of my real issues as well is my mother was in the hospital in North Carolina last year about this time, and I discovered how much technology the hospitals use.
Right.
So we want to make sure that our ladies are ready to use the technology
Exactly.
that they will have to use in order to do that.
That's
So,
right.
so another part of what we're looking into is trying to figure out how we can help them, support them with the technology needed.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, the computers, everything happening electronically
Oh,
is,
yeah.
I mean, medical files are electronic at this point.
I watched the nurses in the hospital last year. Everything. They would move these little
Right.
carts around that had
Right.
all of the data on it,
Right.
and they would punch in information. That was the way that they checked medications.
Right.
That was the way that they entered vital signs. So unless you can handle that kind of
Right.
technology, you have a
True.
very difficult
I have a
time.
girlfriend that quite some time ago developed the software for one of the first programs for bedside,
Yeah.
electronic charts.
That's amazing.
And and now it's gone on to be a very big thing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But you're right. People have to become familiar with the technology in order to do that.
And that's what we're doing now with our two programs, and expanding them. We all the time get questions about, so you're just in Mercer County, when are you going to expand?
Sure.
And we don't know that yet,
Yeah.
but we would like to be able to serve the folks who
Well, we need to find some
assistance.
some philanthropic organization that has some money
We
to
do.
help you do that.
We really
so
do.
if you happen to be with one of the foundations in the Mercer County area, would you please contact us, because I would like to see this organization grow.
I have to say that we have gotten some assistance from the Princeton Area Community Foundation. They've been extremely helpful to us, and we're very grateful. And,
Excellent.
And this past year, we got a small grant from the the Community Foundation of New Jersey.
Okay.
And also Sun Bank. So we're
Good.
making friends.
We're making progress here,
We
right?
are. We
well,
are.
I can't think of
We are.
anything more exciting. So tell me, your doctorate's in what? Public policy or something like
Public
that?
administration.
Public administration.
Yes, which I loved.
Of course.
Working with the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how do you tell me? What do you get out of this?
I'm so busy I don't think too much about what I get out of it. But I have always, somebody told me recently, your aura is helping people.
That's great.
And I think that that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Getting
great
joy.
satisfaction
You're getting
for
joy.
me. But also, minority women experience things that are just unbelievable sometimes. And when we get together and we talk about the stories,
Yes.
we that's the other part of maybe helping some women who don't have to go through what we
That's
had
right.
to go through.
Teaching someone else, and there's research
Teaching
to
and
show.
helping them to learn and just being exposed.
And knowing what can happen and being
Yes.
prepared for it. There's research to show that women dissipate stress by talking with one another.
Yes.
In fact, I read in the field of positive psychology, one of the best predictors of high productivity for a woman in the workplace is to have someone to talk to.
And the other part of that is to have a mentor.
That's right.
And
And not
that-
just
that-
any
which-
kind of mentor.
that's
Like,
right.
You can have these formal mentors, and it's important, but really what you have to have, you can have the formal mentors if they're assigned to you,
But
but
you
you
have to
need
have
to have the mentor that knows the down and dirty. Who
That's right.
The company might tell you this is what they want, but this is really what they want.
Exactly.
And I always tell people, don't always try to get mentors of the same gender or the same race or the whatever. Get all the mentors you can, because everybody has a little piece of the pie.
And they have different perspectives,
Exactly.
even on the same
Exactly
issue.
true.
So that's extremely
Exactly
good
right.
advice.
Yeah.
And what we know from the research that we've done and from talking to women is that we aren't mentored, well.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of what we try to do is to provide
Change
that
that.
kind of,
I
yeah.
agree.
And so I get satisfaction out of being able to make
Yeah.
those kinds of connections.
Absolutely. It's great fun. I mean, this is a real grassroots movement
Yeah,
where
it is.
a bunch of women saw a need and decided to go make change based on that need. So how many graduates have you had? I mean, where are we in the pipeline?
We have recently had 32 graduates. I mean,
great.
the whole period of time. Not graduates meaning they haven't
They've
all
reached their
finished school,
certification.
but
Have we
in
gotten
terms
that
of
far?
well, the recipients, we gave out our largest number of recipients for just in time in December,
Okay.
and they haven't graduated yet.
Okay. So is this the first group coming through?
This is the third group.
Third group
The
coming
third
through. So
group.
we've got 2 groups that have already come through.
And we've had 26 graduates so far.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, and what we tell them is you're receiving the Just-in-Time grant now. We will attend your graduation, and we'll make sure that and the whole goal is to make sure they stay in school.
That's right. And to mentor them, to keep them there, and to
that's
help them
right.
deal
and
with
to
the
help
problems
the
that come up.
transition once they are finished.
Right. And then to build that bridge between school and work,
That's
so they
right.
can get connected, and then
That's right.
support them when they start in that new field. And I would expect
And at some point, most of the women that we provide assistance to also have families.
Yes.
So it's not like they're teenagers starting their first training programs.
Right.
Many of them have worked in a field that's unrelated to health, have lost employment,
Sure.
gone back to school,
Right.
or decided to make a change
Right.
and have gone back to school. So we don't work with ingenues per se. We work
Yes.
with women who have experience, who've gone through the school of hard knocks and are making changes. So that's important to me, because it's hard to go back and do something. I went back to school for my PhD when I was 52. So I have some sense of how difficult it is to to stop and do something different.
Well, I was a single mother with 3 kids when I went off to get my doctorate in psychology. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think that it's changing a little bit now, but I'm a decade or so past when you went to school. But I think that it has not been uncommon for women to go back to school after having their families. Now, maybe less so than before, or not, I'm not sure. But it does require that you not only think of the woman's needs, but her needs around her family.
That's
I
right.
agree.
And when we look at Just-in-Time, we got 31 applications this time, which is the most that we've ever gotten. And we can only provide assistance to 16, and we stretched it with that.
Okay.
But
How would someone make a donation to your group right now if they were listening?
well, there are lots of ways. They can go to our website. We have a wonderfulworkingwomen.org, and they will be able to click on our donate button. And in
Okay.
fact, somebody did that during the holidays, so
Good.
that works. They can mail a donation to us at IWWWE, and the post office box is 7869 West Trenton,
Post Office Box 7869, West Trenton, New Jersey. And what's the zip?
08628.
08628.
Or they can
Great.
just call me, and I'll give them all
And
of that
how do they
information.
call you?
They can reach me. I have 2 numbers. One is 609-466-2819. They can also call me at 609-388-1867.
Great. Well, it was a happy day for me when you had your caregiver conference at Mercer County College.
And that's how we met.
Judy
it was
Hutton,
wonderful.
the CEO of the Y, sent me the email and said, Teena, do you know this group? Look at this group. And I read it, and I said, oh my gosh, wonderful women working for empowerment. I like that. So that's when I called you and said, we've got to meet. And I love what you're doing. And one thing, because we only have a second, but at the very beginning you said you wanted to follow the lead of some of what you had learned from your ancestors.
Yes.
Can you quickly tell me about that?
One of the things that recently I was listening to the radio, and Isabel Wilkerson has written this great book about the sun, the warmth of other suns, and when she talked about her family that had come up from the South. In Trenton, many families have come from the South, and they brought that culture with them. But now we're losing some of those connections, and it's good to go back and reconnect. As a matter of fact, in March, in our celebration of Women's History, we will have conversations about our ancestors.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
My grandmother was from the South, and I actually talk a little bit about her in my book. And she picked tobacco
Did she?
in the fields of West Virginia, and then made her way north in the Midwest into Ohio. But she was widowed twice by the time she was 34. And lost several children, and you know these stories.
Yeah.
And worked as a cook in a restaurant for I'll start to cry, for her whole life, wonderful woman, and without her, I wouldn't be here.
That's right. And one of the things that they teach us is perseverance.
That's right.
No matter what obstacles
right.
you encounter, you
true.
can overcome
Right.
it.
And what I was
that's one of the lessons we really
Well, what I
want
say to people all
put
the
out
time, and
there.
I was thinking of it when you were talking about all the people that come in to your girls, to your women, which I'm sure I'll do at some point. Here's the bottom line: just never quit.
That's right.
Just don't quit. If you look at the people that are most successful in this world, they're not necessarily the smartest. They're not necessarily the best educated. They're the people that never quit.
That's right.
And that's really what it takes.
And there
are a lot of reasons to quit, and society will give us all a lot of reasons not to go forward. And you have to say, I'm not listening, and just not quit. But it really helps to have a group like you guys giving you the support to help you not quit.
I think that's absolutely true. And in terms of our ancestors, that's what they taught us.
That's right.
And they taught us also to care.
Yes.
So it's kind of a
Yes.
strange juxtaposition when you think
Yes.
about it. But they taught us to care about other people.
That's right.
And so they brought other people along with them. And the other people they taught to have perseverance. So I'm with you, girl. I just get teary every time I think about it.
Hey, listen, there's a line I talk about all the time. It's on my website. The wider our webs of connectedness, the higher we bounce.
There you go.
That's
wonderful.
So thank you, Dr. Gloria Frederick.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, and thank you for having us.
Executive Director for the Institute of Wonderful Working Women.
Wonderful
women working for empowerment. I'll get it sometime. She's at 120 John Street in Princeton. And one more time, give me a phone number if somebody wants to connect with you.
609-466-2819.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. This is a wonderful institute. Connect with her. I love it. Take care of yourselves and go have a good time. Bye-bye.